Pause for a moment right here. What you are reading now did not appear by accident. Something inside you has been searching, reaching, quietly waiting for a message that finally brings the scattered pieces of your life together. And Archangel Michael's words come exactly at the moment when your soul is ready to hear them. There is a shift happening within you, subtle but unmistakable, and it is preparing you to understand a truth that once would have felt too heavy, too unfamiliar, or too bright to face. Take a slow breath in. Let it out gently. You have been carrying a fog in your mind lately, feeling unsure, confused, uncertain about people, choices, timing, and direction. But Michael's message is simple and profound. The confusion was not a sign that you were lost. It was a shield placed around you until your heart grew strong enough to see clearly without breaking. You are not being blocked. You are being protected. This protection is lifting now. A clarity you have not felt in years is beginning to settle into your chest, like the soft glow of dawn after a long night. You can feel it, even if you cannot articulate it, a quiet certainty forming beneath your ribs. And if you are ready to welcome this understanding, you may affirm it by saying, I am ready to see clearly. Michael says there is something you overlooked before, something that lived in the blind spot of your awareness. It is not your fault. Human hearts learn slowly. They need time, friction, struggle, sometimes heartbreak, sometimes silence. Every unanswered question, every unresolved moment, every person who left without explanation, all of it has been pushing you toward this very realization. Think back for a moment. Every departure that hurt you, every connection that faded, every moment that broke you open. At the time, it felt like loss, maybe even betrayal. But now, through Michael's guidance, the meaning begins to reveal itself. None of those moments were meant to destroy you. They were meant to redirect you. People who could not walk alongside your destiny were gently removed, even when you tried to hold on. Doors that would have trapped you in cycles of pain were closed, even when you begged for them to stay open. Your heart was not being punished. It was being protected. Michael says, the people who left your life did not take anything from you. Instead, they made space for what was always meant to arrive. Let that sink in, because for the first time, you are starting to see that not everything you lost was meant for your future. The world teaches you to chase, to cling, to fight for what you desire. But your soul knows something softer, wiser. What is aligned will never require you to suffer endlessly to keep it. What is meant for you will not drain you, confuse you, or diminish you. It will stand with you. It will nourish you. It will amplify you. And this shift, this recognition in your heart, is the beginning of your awakening. Take another breath. Feel how the heaviness slowly loosens its grip on your chest. That pressure you have felt for months, maybe even years, is dissolving, because clarity is not always loud. It does not always arrive with certainty. Sometimes it comes as a gentle release, an exhale that tastes like freedom, a realization that feels like, I do not have to carry this anymore. If you feel this moment settling inside you, you may say, I welcome divine understanding. Michael has watched you try to make sense of people who could never offer you honesty, stability, or truth. He has watched you give your heart to those who are not ready to hold it. He has watched you stay in places that drained your spirit because you believed loyalty meant staying where you were hurting. But this chapter is ending now. You are stepping into a season where you no longer shrink yourself to fit into small spaces. You no longer chase people who cannot meet your soul. You no longer apologize for your intuition. Because the truth is this, you always knew. Even in your moments of confusion, something inside you whispered. Even when you doubted yourself, there was a voice within that nudged you toward clarity. Michael says, your intuition was never wrong. You were simply not ready to trust it. And now you are. Double tap or like this message if you are aligning with clarity. It is not superstition. It is intention. It is the moment you say, I choose to see what was hidden before. Michael says there is a revelation entering your life, one that will shift how you see your past, how you understand your relationships, and how you walk forward from this moment on. You may have believed you were broken, but you were being reshaped. You may have believed you were abandoned, but you were being redirected. You may have believed you were alone, but you were being guided. He invites you now to pause, not because you are uncertain, but because the truth is approaching you softly, like a wave that does not crash, but rises steadily. Close your eyes for a moment inside this awareness. Let the old narratives fade. Let the old versions of yourself fall away. You are stepping into a new beginning, not because something outside you changed, but because something inside you awakened. Say silently, I welcome the truth meant for me. And when you are ready, you may anchor this moment by writing, I am ready to know the secret. Because the secret is already touching your heart. You can feel it. You can sense it. Something in you knows that this message is not new. It is simply the confirmation you have waited for. The understanding your soul has whispered for years is finally rising into your awareness. Michael reminds you, you are being guided back to yourself. The path is opening. The confusion is clearing. And this is only the beginning of your revelation. There is a quiet transformation happening inside you right now, one that you may not fully understand yet, but you can definitely feel. It is subtle, almost like the soft shifting of the air before a storm clears. But the change is unmistakable. Your thoughts are becoming lighter. Your chest is less tight. Your inner world is slowly aligning with the truth you have long been kept away from, not out of punishment, but out of protection. Archangel Michael says, your mind was clouded because your heart needed time to grow. And suddenly, so many things begin to make sense. The confusion you wrestled with, the uncertainty you carried, the heaviness you felt every time you questioned your worth or your choices. None of it was a failure. It was preparation. You were being shaped, refined, stripped of illusions and attachments that could not follow you into the next chapter of your life. There were moments when you felt lost, moments when you doubted everything, moments when you wondered if something was wrong with you. But Michael is clear. Nothing was wrong with you. You were evolving. And evolution does not always feel gentle. Sometimes it feels like breaking. Sometimes it feels like chaos. Sometimes it feels like life is falling apart piece by piece. But what if those pieces were never meant to stay? What if they belong to an old version of you that has already served its purpose? You are beginning to understand this now. There is a new awareness rising inside you, almost as if a door in your spirit that you never noticed before has quietly opened. You may not know what lies behind it yet, but you can feel the shift. Something in you is saying, I am not who I used to be. Michael wants you to breathe into this truth, because the version of you that struggled, cried, carried everyone else's burdens, questioned your own intuition, and doubted your worth, that version is fading, not because it was weak, but because it was temporary. You were never meant to remain in a place of emotional survival. You are meant to rise. Take a slow breath now. Notice how your chest lifts a little more freely. Notice the faint warmth forming behind your sternum. This is not imagination. This is energy moving. Michael says, the truth begins in the heart before it reaches the mind. You may affirm this shift by saying, I am opening to clarity. Now think back to the people who walked away from your life. The ones who left suddenly, the ones who drifted apart slowly, the ones who disappointed you, the ones who betrayed your trust, the ones who simply could not love you the way your soul needed. At the time, their absence felt like abandonment. It felt like rejection. It felt like something important was being torn away from you. But Michael reveals something different. The ones who left were never meant to stay for the next chapter. Their exit did not break your path. It protected it. Their absence created the space you needed to grow, to heal, to rise into the person you are becoming. If they had stayed, you would have stayed small. If they had stayed, you would have compromised your truth. If they had stayed, you would have carried weight that was never yours to bear. Michael says, you did not lose them. You outgrew them. And the moment you read this, something inside you relaxes, because deep down, you sensed this truth long ago. You felt the misalignment. You felt their energy dimming yours. You felt the imbalance, the emotional labor, the unanswered messages of your own soul. But you cared deeply, so you tried hard. Harder than you should have. Harder than they ever tried for you. This is not your flaw. It is your strength. Your loyalty is powerful. Your love is powerful. Your capacity to give is powerful. But now, Michael says it is time to redirect that power toward yourself. If you resonate with this, you may anchor it by writing, I choose myself now. There is another truth emerging, one that may feel both comforting and challenging. Some of the heartbreaks you went through were not betrayals of love. They were interruptions of destiny. You were being redirected long before you even realized you were drifting off your path. A closed door, a sudden ending, a painful goodbye. These were not punishments. They were interventions. Michael says, you were never abandoned. You were rerouted. And this changes everything, because suddenly your past is not a chain around your ankle. It is a map made of every redirection that led you back to your center. Every time life said no, it was only guiding you toward a deeper yes that you could not see yet. You may take a moment to breathe that in. Let the understanding settle into your chest like a soft, warm light. Another wave of awareness rises now, the kind that makes your shoulders drop a little, the kind that removes a weight you did not realize you were carrying. Michael says, your intuition was speaking long before you learned how to listen. You felt when someone's energy shifted. You sensed when someone's intentions were not pure. You noticed when your soul felt unsettled. But you silenced these whispers because you wanted to see the good. You wanted to believe the best. You wanted to love without fear. There is nothing wrong with that. It speaks to the purity of your heart. But now, Michael is teaching you how to love with clarity, not illusion. How to trust your intuition without doubting yourself. How to release what hurts without feeling guilty. If you are ready to honor your inner knowing, you may say, I trust my intuition. There is one more thing Michael wants you to understand in this moment. Your strength was never in how much pain you could endure. Your strength was in how deeply you could feel and still remain open. You did not close your heart. You did not become bitter. You did not turn cold. And that is proof of the purity of your soul. This purity is why clarity is entering your life now. This purity is why truth is unfolding for you. This purity is why you're stepping into a more aligned version of yourself. You may feel a gentle shift in your breathing, a calmness spreading across your mind. This is not coincidence. This is the truth finding its place within you. You may anchor this moment with the words, I received the truth meant for me. And remember, this clarity is not the end of your journey. It is the beginning of it. Something inside you is beginning to settle, not into silence, but into understanding. It feels almost like the slow clearing of a storm, the moment when the clouds loosen and the sky begins to open. You may not realize it yet, but this shift is the sign that you have entered a new stage of clarity. The questions that once consumed you no longer press with the same urgency. The pain that once echoed through your chest has softened. The confusion that once clouded every decision is thinning. This is the quiet miracle of awakening, and Michael says you are right in the middle of it. For so long, you carried emotional weight that was never meant to be yours. You held on to situations that drained you. You stayed loyal to people who were never loyal to your spirit. You tried to make things work that were only meant to teach you. You kept trying because your heart is generous, Your love is sincere, and your soul believes in healing. But now, Michael reveals a truth you needed long ago. Your heart broke open so your spirit could grow. Think about the hardest moments you endured. The nights when you felt invisible. The days when you felt misunderstood. The moments when someone's silence felt louder than any words. At the time, you believed those experiences were diminishing you. But today, something inside you whispers differently. Those painful moments shaped you. They sharpened your intuition. They deepened your compassion. They purified your intentions. They taught you what your soul deserves and what it must never settle for again. Michael says, your wounds did not weaken you. They calibrated you. And when you read this, a strange calmness enters your awareness, because you suddenly see that every heartbreak, every disappointment, every unexpected ending was preparing you for a version of yourself you could not have become otherwise. Take a slow breath. Let your shoulders relax. Let your heart soften. You are safe in this realization. Now look back at the people who hurt you. Not with anger, but with understanding. Some of them were acting from their own wounds. Some projected their fear onto you. Some did not know how to love you, not because you were unworthy, but because they had never learned how to love themselves. And some were simply players in a chapter that was never meant to last. It is not your job to fix them. It was only your task to feel, to learn, and to rise. Michael says, you did not fail. You outgrew what could not grow with you. This truth may hurt and heal you at the same time, because you finally realize why certain relationships felt heavy, why certain friendships felt one-sided, why certain connections faded, even when you gave everything you had. Your soul was evolving. Theirs was standing still. And when evolution and stagnation meet, separation becomes destiny. You may affirm this new clarity by saying, I release what cannot rise with me. There is another truth Michael wants you to hear clearly. You have been blaming yourself for far too long. You carried guilt for things you never caused. You apologized for things that were never your fault. You bent yourself into shapes that were never yours to become. You took responsibility for others' actions because you believed love meant absorbing their pain. But love is not self-abandonment. Compassion is not self-erasure. Forgiveness is not self-destruction. Michael says, your empathy has been your strength, not your flaw. But now, you are learning how to be empathetic without carrying wounds that are not yours. You are learning how to be loving without losing yourself. You are learning how to be compassionate without being consumed. If this resonates, you may say, I honor myself as much as I honor others. There is a new energy forming inside you, subtle but powerful. It is the energy of reclaiming your worth. For a long time, you doubted your value because others failed to see it. But Michael reminds you, the blindness of others was never a reflection of you. Read that again slowly. Let it sink in. People can only meet you at the depth of their own awareness. Someone who lives in fear cannot understand your courage. Someone buried in shame cannot recognize your purity. Someone trapped in ego cannot appreciate your heart. Someone who has never healed will not know how to treat you gently. Their inability was never your inadequacy. Now breathe. Do you feel the weight lifting? Do you feel the shift happening in your chest? This is your spirit reclaiming itself. Michael says, your clarity begins where your self-blame ends. And in this moment, as you let go of the guilt you have carried, your soul becomes lighter. There is another layer to this awakening. Your intuition, the quiet whispers, the uneasy feelings, the moments when something felt off, was never wrong. You simply did not know how to trust it fully. You questioned yourself because others questioned you. You dismissed your instincts because you were taught to prioritize logic over knowing. But intuition is not guesswork. It is spiritual intelligence. Michael says, your soul sees before your eyes do. And now you are learning to honor that sight. If you feel this truth expanding within you, you may anchor it by saying, I trust what my soul knows. You are entering a new phase, not by forcing anything, but by finally hearing what your spirit has been whispering for years. You are learning what aligns with your peace. You are learning what strengthens your energy. You are learning what drains your spirit. You are learning when to stay and when to walk away. You are learning what love feels like when it is genuine, and what love feels like when it is merely a pattern. You are becoming clear, and this clarity is not cold or harsh. It is warm. It is gentle. It is freeing. Michael says, your clarity is your protection now. Feel how those words settle inside you. For the first time in a long time, you are not afraid of seeing the truth. You are ready for it. You may affirm this shift by writing, I welcome the clarity of my path. Because your path is opening, your heart is awakening, your spirit is remembering, and the revelation you have been preparing for, the one that will reshape how you see your past and your future, is already approaching you softly. You can feel it now, the quiet recognition spreading through your entire being. Not a sudden revelation, not a dramatic breakthrough, but a gentle unfolding, a soft unraveling of truths that were waiting patiently in the corners of your awareness. It feels like pieces of you that were scattered by old pain are finally returning home. Michael says this is the moment when everything begins to make sense, not because the past changes, but because you have changed enough to see it differently. For so long, you carried a story in your heart that made you feel small. You believed you failed where you were only redirected. You believed you were abandoned where you were actually being protected. You believed you were not enough where you were simply too much for the places and people who were not ready for your depth. And now, as clarity settles into your chest, you finally see the difference. Michael says, your heart is remembering the truth of who you are. And this remembering is not loud. It is not dramatic. It is not overwhelming. It is steady, calm, unmistakably real. It is the soft glow that comes after a long night. It is the quiet moment when you realize you survived everything that tried to break you, not by becoming harder, but by becoming clearer. Take a breath. Feel how easily the air enters your lungs now, without the tension that once lived there. This ease is a sign you are no longer fighting the past. Let your mind drift to the moments where you felt most lost, the nights where your thoughts spiraled, the days where nothing made sense, the chapters where you felt disconnected from yourself, like you were watching your own life from a distance. Those moments were not evidence of weakness. They were thresholds. They were the spaces between who you were and who you were becoming. Michael says, you are stepping out of the old version of yourself, not because you forced it, but because you are finally ready. And readiness is a quiet thing. It appears in the way you no longer chase what confuses you. It appears in the way you no longer tolerate what drains you. It appears in the way you no longer argue with your intuition. It appears in the way your spirit finally says, enough, and means it. If you feel this shift, you may anchor it by saying, I am ready for my new beginning. There is a truth rising now, one that your spirit has known for a long time, but your mind was not yet able to understand. You were never meant to stay in the places you outgrew. You were never meant to shrink yourself to be accepted.